Welcome, Adelaide. My name is Con and I am the conversationalist. And as always, I have my latte in tow. My guest today is Natalie Paraskevopoulos. Welcome, Natalie.
Hi, thanks for having me. Cuppa in hand.
Fantastic. Good to see. Natalie is director of Digitale, one of Adelaide's leading digital and creative agencies. And we know how important digital marketing is, particularly in today's time. And just for some credibility from Natalie's perspective, some of her clients have included EOS of Skycity, Bickfords and Ray White. So the information that Nat's going to share today, I strongly suggest you take note. There's some real actionable items that Natalie's going to share with us today. Now, I guess the first thing I'd like to touch on is content planning. And I know personally, even though I've got a lot of content, I'm struggling to plan it really, really well. What can you share about content planning?
I mean, what you said then is exactly right. Everyone has a lot, a lot of us have a lot to say, but it's how do we actually execute that across our social media platforms in a strategic manner? And I think, one of the biggest things that I find with my clients is that, that they'll say, hey, we've got photos or we've got a couple of videos, but it doesn't actually align with their social media strategy or their business strategy. And it's also not enough to actually execute a month's worth of posts. So we find that content planning really stems from your social media strategy and having really clear ideas around what you actually want to communicate with your audience.
Okay, so obviously having a strategy, what does that involve? What can you give us for that?
So social media strategy is essentially a business strategy, but for your social media. So most businesses, a good business should have a business strategy, which has obviously your goals and objectives. Your social media strategy is essentially an extension of that. So it looks at your goal for each platform, who you're trying to talk to on that specific platform, what your content will look like on that specific platform. So for some people, again, depending on the way that you or your particular audience use Instagram, graphics might be a really important part of your social media strategy. We work with a number of clients who have very high educational value content. So for them, when we map out their content for a month, we always factor in anywhere between 4 to 5 graphics. Okay.
It's fair to say then that obviously we're inundated with platforms nowadays. We've got Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. There's still TikTok floating around and goodness knows whatever else. For a small business, I'd suggest it's challenging to be able to produce content and different content for every platform. What would be your recommendation in terms of, firstly, which platforms, and secondly, the specific kind of content that they should be looking to create for those platforms?
Yeah, really good question. I actually did a presentation for the Small Business Commissioner on Tuesday, and it was all about social media for small business. And one of the main things that came up was, in fact, which platform do you use? Whether or not you're a small business or a big business, the platforms that you're on should, again, link to your business strategy. If they don't serve a purpose, then they're not worth your time or resources. So again, if you're a small business, then resources are a really big thing. We only have a certain number of hours in the day. So when it comes to working out which platform should you use, first and foremost, is your target audience on that platform? Now, 9 times out of 10, you'll probably say yes, because the reality is that many businesses have a multifaceted customer, as do the platforms. But the key thing is, can you make a mission statement that aligns with that platform? So, for example, your mission statement for Instagram might be, we want to post shareable and savable content. So, okay, if your mission is to create and post savable and shareable content, that's also given you a metric, and it's also given you a goal for everything that you post. That'll be your filter.
Okay. There's no question. And again, speaking from my own experience, I obviously my technical knowledge isn't as good as I would like it to be, and probably from a younger generation perspective, there's so many complexities in terms of, you just don't have Facebook. You've got Facebook stories. Now, I believe they've been introduced, because I noticed the other morning, Gary Vaynerchuk, they've now got audio, which I guess is something where they're looking to combat Clubhouse.
Correct.
You've got stories, you've got reels, you've got goodness knows whatever else.
Yeah.
How can somebody create content or a piece of content that they can then disseminate in a productive fashion to then share on those platforms?
Really good, again, really good question. So once you identify which platforms you want to be on, now again, you know, it always comes down to time and resources. Pick your platforms based on, like we said, your mission statements, and also where your audience lives. So then let's say that Instagram has proven to be an important part of your social media presence. So your customer hangs out there. Let's think about your unique customer on Instagram. They're probably going to be a little bit different in comparison to your customer on Facebook. Instagram tends to skew younger. Now, obviously, it's growing older as the user base grows older, and the younger ones are still, you know, not quite there yet. But generally speaking, your user base on Instagram will be more of that 25 to 40 base. So think about what kind of content they're looking for. You know, we talk about shareability, we talk about savability. You know, you mentioned reels as well. Plan your content based on that. So going back to your question about how can you plan, how can you break down one piece of content? So, you know, we did a really interesting exercise a couple of months ago. I'm actually gonna read it to you because I love this. So we talk about one topic and how that one topic changes on every single platform, right? So the topic is coffee. We love it. We will drink it. On Facebook, a post about coffee would look like, this is a list of my favorite places to get coffee, and we're going to tag the businesses. Why? Because on Facebook, it's all about community. It's all about who can we share, who can we tag in this post, who can we send this post to. I want actionable, clickable items. Instagram. Here's an aesthetic photo of my coffee that's now cold. Instagram is still a very, very visual platform. Although there is still the space for, like we said, graphics, it's all about eye-catching. In a feed of flooded images, how does your post stand out? It has to be eye-catching. So there has to be that visual element. Then the way to take that a little bit further and add value, that's in your caption. LinkedIn. I also mentioned in my presentation on Tuesday that LinkedIn's changed a lot. LinkedIn previously, particularly when it first came out, it was bordering shameless self-promotion. It's moved significantly away from that in the past year, and I definitely think it's as a result of what we've been experiencing. But now it's a really community-driven and motivational space. People are posting their losses as much as their wins, and it's really quite empowering. So, you know, what would you post about coffee on LinkedIn? Coffee increases productivity by 37%. Here's an article. I'm showing myself as someone of value, and I'm backing up my information. Now, that's not a stat, so don't quote me on that, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah. Okay. Let me scrub that out.
yeah. Don't take that note. You know, let's take it one step further and go to Pinterest. Again, people want savable, actionable things. Yes, there's the aesthetic element, but there's also the level of, why would I be saving this for later? Coffee, 3-ingredient whipped coffee recipe with a beautiful photo. Pretty simple, right? Look, I could go on, but I think it's pretty clear what the difference between each platform really is.
Yeah, there's definitely distinct differences, and I myself are guilty of almost posting the same thing on 3 platforms because it's just convenient, it's easy, but clearly it's not productive. So the advice there, listeners, is you need to make sure that you're creating content or posting content that is relevant for that platform to get the maximum benefit out of it. Natalie, the other day you shared with me Instagram have made some changes to their algorithm in relation to the video reel. And certainly some people I've spoken to who, for their reasons, have been extremely reluctant to have their faces plastered on social media in video form, and are now in a bit of a panic mode. Can you share with us what these changes to the algorithm are and what that means? And more importantly, what do people need to do? What do businesses need to do to maximize their reach on that platform?
Yeah, it's definitely something that frightened quite a few people. A lot of people misinterpret it when the founder of Instagram came out and said, look, we're favoring Reels. What he was saying was, he definitely was saying that the algorithm will feed someone Reels. However, where people have misconstrued this information is, let's not forget how the algorithm works. So forget what he said. The algorithm works in the sense that it will show you what it thinks you want to see based on your engagement habits. So if Con, as a human, as a person with an account on Instagram, you only like photos, you will get served photos. If you only like videos, you'll get served videos. Where they're saying with Reels is that even if Con only liking photos, he's still going to get served Reels because they are prioritizing them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does. So just elaborate, what are Reels?
So Reels are essentially Instagram's version of TikTok. They're still bordering on cheesy, but I think I'm hoping this, I guess, change in the way that things are working and the pressure of the fact that they are everywhere is going to make people be a little bit more creative with them. They don't have to be the dancing and pointing at words and, having your face in the camera, because that's not for everyone. I certainly won't be doing it with my business because that's just not me, and that's not the way that I want to portray Digitale. However, some businesses that will work with. What you can do, which is a little bit different, is, you can create behind the scenes videos. Editing is really easy on Reels. It's a lot easier than it is on TikTok. You can actually post videos, so curated videos that you've had produced, but as a Reel. Therefore, you're still going to increase your reach, but it's not the cheesy video. So with a lot of clients, what we do is we'll ask them straight up, do you want this to be a Reel? If yes, we'll make sure we're shooting it in the right dimensions.
Okay. So just to confuse me even further, so I understood that Instagram, the image post is a certain dimension.
Yes.
If you're on Instagram TV, it's a different dimension again.
Correct.
And now you're saying there's a third dimension with Instagram Reels.
Yeah. So Reels are the same dimensions as stories.
Oh,
so they're
great.
So they're slightly taller. So Instagram TV is a little bit shorter. And then, you've got obviously square and portrait for posts.
Oh, fantastic. Just what I wanted to hear. Oh, just what I wanted to hear.
Look, as a general rule of thumb, and I mean, this is something we say to a lot of clients as well, when it comes to shooting your videos, again, all comes back to content planning. Think about what platforms you're going to be using that video on, because that will dictate how it's shot. With a lot of videographers, they will shoot in landscape. So if you say to them, oh, actually in post-production, I want that to be portrait for Instagram, you're going to lose 90% of the real estate. So what we do is we actually plan that beforehand. So for example, we know that we're shooting a portrait video, it's getting shot in that way. We can make sure all the good stuff isn't going to get cut out.
I'm a massive fan of Wondershare Filmora, which is an editing tool for those that know about it. I'm still learning, and if 0 is a dunce and 10 is an expert, I'm probably about a 2.5, but I'm getting by. One of the advantages of an editing tool such as that is that you can take the same video or the same image and you can change the aspect, the dimensions of it.
Correct.
Okay. Is that something that I should continue to do? Because obviously it's very hard to, if I want to use one piece of video and I want to cut it up and for different platforms, I can't be getting it shot in different aspects.
No, of course not. Okay. Of course not. Look, our recommendation is always to film portrait. The reason for that is that people, You don't see people walking around with their phone rotated anymore. Am I right? No one does that. Everyone's watching everything in vertical. You get far more landscape when everything's vertical. So from a content creation point of view, just stick to vertical. It's going to make your life a lot easier when it does come to cutting things up and repurposing.
Okay. One thing I'd like to move on to just for the moment is obviously we're here in Adelaide. We're in day 2 of a 7-day lockdown thanks to our friend COVID.
Day 2.
Day 2. You've disappeared there, Natalie.
Sorry.
You're back. Day 2 in a lockdown, and our friends in the Eastern Seaboard have endured far longer. What suggestions would you give to people to take advantage of, let's call it this enforced stay at home in terms of their content and their content planning?
Now's a great time to plan. You know, as horrible it is to say, I quite enjoy being forced to stay home, because for me it allows me time to actually sit back and plan. When I'm in the office every day, I don't have that break. Obviously every business is different, you know. I certainly feel for those that can't work at this point in time. But you know, if you are finding yourself with a bit more free time, now is a great time to do a social media audit. If you are currently on social media, have a look at every platform, have a look at what posts are working, what posts aren't. Scope your competition, get some inspiration, and start to map out your social media strategy. You know, your social media strategy isn't locked in stone. It will change and it will evolve because social media does. But having that planning is just going to take that pressure off. You know, no one likes it when you go, oh, haven't posted in a week, better post something. That's not doing you any favors. It's not a nice feeling.
No, and again, speaking from my own experience, once you haven't posted for a few days, there's an element of pressure that starts to build up, and it's like, oh, what am I going to post? Should I, shouldn't I? And then nothing happens, and then 7 days go by and you've posted nothing, and it's really not doing your brand or your exposure any good whatsoever.
Not at all. And look, and the reality is as well, you know, Instagram in particular, it thrives on consistency. So, you know, when someone says to us, how often should I be posting? You know, someone told me I have to post every single day. You most certainly do not. If you can post twice a week and stick to that consistently, you're doing yourself far more advantages than you are if you were to post 4 times one week, 1 time next week, 1 time the week after. It's quality over quantity every single time. Okay.
Good sage advice there, Natalie. Just before we go, what final tips can you firstly, what I would like to do is, I know you have a content planner which is available, and what I will be doing is we'll be posting the link in the comments for our listeners and viewers to get benefit of this content planner, and I've certainly got mine, and it's helping me immensely. So we'll be doing that. Other than that, Natalie, what suggestions in this time can you give to our listeners and viewers?
Be really honest with yourself about what you can commit to social media. If you're a small business and you know you just don't have the time or resources, pick a platform and do a really good job on that one platform. Don't spread yourself too thin. Secondly to that, again, use the time to really identify where your wins and where your opportunities are. And thirdly, plan ahead. There's no reason why most businesses can't at least be 15 days in advance when it comes to their social media posts.
Okay. Wonderful advice, Natalie. As always, it's been a pleasure to chat with you, Natalie.
Thank you.
Director of Digitale.
Good timing.
Good timing. Digitale creative and marketing. Very, very informative. I know the listeners and the viewers will get plenty of value out of this. My name is Con. I am the Conversationalist, and until next time, bye for now. Thanks for listening. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of A Cuppa with a Conversationalist. To join in next time, follow or subscribe. And for more information about my coaching and workshops, visit my website at www.conkutsikas.com.